Governments must act now or face more economic pain from COVID 19's baby bust. Disasters usually come with falling birth rates, but this time they might not recover unless government takes action now. P.D. James' 1992 dystopian novel, The Children of Men, imagines a world where a rapidly aging human race has become infertile. Coincidentally, the novel begins in 2021 with the death of the last human to be born on Earth. Although the real 2021 is not quite as dramatic, the number of births is plummeting around the world. A COVID-19 baby bust is underway. A year into the pandemic, it is clear that being quarantined at home has not resulted in more pregnancies, despite having all the time in the world for Netflix and chill. In fact, COVID-19 pandemic seems to have had the opposite effect. Provisional data coming 9 months after most countries locked down last March suggests a steep fall in births across the developed world and in some emerging markets. In the United States, for example, there were 7.7% fewer births in December 2020 than during the same period in 2019. This January, Arizona, Iowa, Ohio, and Florida all recorded declines of roughly 9% on an annual basis, while in February, California saw a dramatic 19% drop, in part due to families leaving the state. It's a similar picture across the Atlantic Ocean, as January birth reports suggest that Europe is faring no better. Hungary is down 9.4% on an annual basis. Russia saw a drop of 10.3%, France of 13.2%, Spain of 20%, and Poland a whopping 24.7%. Even Sweden, which enforced less severe restrictions on mobility last year, recorded a 6.4% drop. All told, if this trend continues, there will be 400,000 fewer Europeans by the end of 2021. Wow. Okay. In Asia, too, a baby bust is underway. Births in Japan and South Korea, which are already home to some of the richest societies in the world, plunged 8% in December 2020. Meanwhile, in China, the first country to be hit by the pandemic, like the Guangzhou and Wenzhou reported declines of between 19% and almost 33%. Although it flies in the face of most jokes, the baby bust is in line with historical evidence. High fatality events like pandemics and economic crises both tend to be followed by a decline in natality. At the height of the influenza pandemic in 1919, in the United States, for example, the number of births dropped by 7.1% on an annual basis, compared with 3.8% in 2020. Unlike today, most fatalities during the Spanish flu were adults of childbearing age, which in part explains why the decline was so steep. And when Hurricane Katrina struck Louisiana in 2005, it caused more than 1,800 deaths and $125 billion of damage. Then, too, the number of births dropped in the immediate aftermath. A year after the hurricane hit, births had fallen 19% in Federal Emergency Management Agency designated disaster counties. Though acute, the effects of high fatality events on natality tend to quickly reverse. By 1921, 2 years after the peak of the Spanish flu, the United States had returned to its prior level of annual births. Similarly, after Hurricane Katrina in the New Orleans parish, the most populated of the 6 Louisiana disaster counties, in 2005, the birth rate returned to pre-hurricane levels 2 years later. In that sense, the COVID-19 baby bust might not be so worrying, except that it has come during the prolonged slowdown in birth rates that have haunted the West since the post-war baby boom ended in the 1960s. The resulting aging population has hampered growth, increased debt, and put Social Security systems on an ever more precarious footing. Needless to say, none of these are developments we need more of. What can policymakers do to combat this decline? Fiscal support is one option. In the United States, the most recent COVID-19 relief packages includes sizable tax credits. Parents of children ages 5 and under will be granted $3,600, with those children ages 6 to 17 will receive $3,000. Both are a substantial increase on the past $2,000 per child. Democrats in Congress are pushing to make these tax changes permanent. Republicans such as Senators Mitt Romney and Marco Rubio have also been vocal about the benefits of increasing tax credits. But tax incentives are only one way to combat the demographic decline. It's far from clear if it's the most efficient one. In fact, recent evidence from Eastern Europe suggests that pro-natality fiscal transfers are expensive and on average only mildly effective. In 2015, the Hungarian government implemented interest-free housing loans and tax breaks for families. Most recently, Prime Minister Viktor Orban has announced free IVF treatments and a personal income tax waiver for women with at least 4 children. And in Poland, the ruling Law and Justice Party kept its flagship campaign promise and rolled out Family 500 Plus program that gives families monthly allowances of roughly $127 per child. Roughly 45% of Hungary's annual GDP is now spent on pro-natalist policies. In Poland, it ranges between 3 and 4%. Since the announcement of pro-natality programs, birth rates have barely increased from 9.2 to 9.4% in Hungary and from 9.6 to 9.8% in Poland. These countries' fiscal foundation, however, has been permanently altered. It will be nearly impossible politically to roll back these family benefits. Structural policies that help parents better integrate childbearing into their careers are another solution to the demographic decline, as any working parent juggling newborns and Zoom calls can attest. The pandemic has brought these conflicting demands in sharp relief. For those who could not work from home, the impact has been devastating. Closed schools meant that many parents, particularly women, had to leave their jobs to take care of children. A March survey by Kaiser Family Foundation found that half of mothers who quit their jobs because of COVID-19 said one reason was school or daycare closures. That is true. The biggest child care system in the United States is the public school system, and it always has been since 1850. But there's a ton of charts that talk about demographics. I'm going to have to talk about demographics at some point. I know I have a video scheduled somewhere I think I'll do it in the next week or so. That would need to come to this channel and show you some of the stuff that's in the background, because this is really particularly crucial. It's especially in the United States. There's a lot of things going on in the background that have a lot to do with demographics that you won't see in the news. They're not going to put it out there like that. You can see it in bits and pieces, but unless you collect the whole puzzle piece, you won't see the entire picture. So I shall endeavor to do so. But this is really critical, and it's going to drive policy, I would say, for the next 10 years, especially amongst the Caucasian persuasion. The white population is losing population very rapidly, and they're getting hit twice with COVID. 80% of the people that die of COVID are probably white. Anywhere from 70 to 80% of people that die of COVID are white elderly probably. But that lowers their population on one end, so you lose 400,000 people on one end, and you have another 400,000 or 500,000 people that are not being born. That's 1 million people that are lost, potential demographics that are lost in 1 year. And that's just the white population. We're not even including the others, which is probably just as devastating. But this is going to be significant, folks. Don't sleep on this. But this is just me catching up. I've been away a week because my account was suspended and for about a week. So I'm just getting out of YouTube jail for this channel. I'll put links to my backup channel, which I put up about 4 or 5 videos on my backup channel that you might be interested in. Now, over the next week or so, I will actually put community posts to tell you where you can find those. In fact, YouTube has taught me a valuable lesson that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So I'm actually going to start doing more videos on my backup channel, which had laid like fallow for like a year or so. So I think I might put some of my more controversial stuff on my backup channel. One to like drive a little traffic that way. Because I think I'm about I think I'm about 1,000 watch hours away from monetization, which is about maybe 5 or 6 videos. So I'm actually going to put 5 or 6 videos on the other channel. But anyway, that's enough of behind baseball, inside baseball. I'm going to jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.